slides for a course in information technology, which I and a colleague had evolved some 3 years ago and had a workbook published with these contents. Sometimes the materials are available here, other times we make them available through the Course Blackboard website. These are the topics we're going to cover. Basically, a brief history of information technology and the various ways that computers have been constructed. And then we'll take a look at the different types of processing people try and do. Transaction processing as opposed to batch processing. Batch processing doesn't involve people interacting with a computer when the computer is doing some lengthy computation or repetitive series of actions. Transaction processing occurs when you, for example, interact with an ATM machine or buy a ticket online. You're actually interacting with information that the computer has access to and is presenting to you. We'll take a little bit of a look at the organizational structures of places that implement computer systems and the ethical implications of what people can do now with computers and how it far exceeds the reach of various kinds of harms that might have been done in the past. So some of the responsibilities we bear for using this technology. This is a picture of an old computer, circa 1945. It's very large because of the electronic technology that was leading edge at the day based on vacuum tubes that looked like little light bulbs. Those circuit elements have been replaced since that time with very, very tiny miniaturized, transistorized elements that pack all of this computing power, which really wasn't very much in these early computers, all of that sort of computer and memory storage into very, very tiny devices. That's why your Apple iTouch or iPhone is much more powerful than all of this stuff that you see here, even this big control panel of a 1950s era computer. So these types of electronic devices were popularized about a decade after experimentation with them proved successful. The Second World War was a big spur to this. Some work had been done in the 30s, but projects mounted in the Second World War eventually, after the war, resulted in the developments that led to mainframe computers, very large computers, expensive, and unfortunately not very powerful, even though they had a tremendous size. The applications that were automated at that time tended to be accounting and records keeping. Those were the kinds of places where it seemed that a lot of manual effort might be replaced by a machine that could do the same types of computations being run by a program. There wasn't anything interactive about them, meaning you didn't stand there and ask a question and get an answer. You programmed a job and set it all up, and then it ran and you got some reports back. And if the reports led to further questions, you wrote more programs and repeated the process. And this is what an older computer looked like back in the 1960s. This kind of computer is what did the computations necessary to build the equipment to send people to the moon and piloted the devices necessary to be controlled in order to get people there and back. So that seems like a rather modern development by comparison to the kinds of computers in use to support the effort. By today's standards, these computers would be considered very primitive, but they were powerful enough. Even though they required large amounts of space and large amounts of power, they could actually accomplish what was necessary to be done for certain types of computations. And we'll take a look at how this split in the types of work being done on computers breaks down into these categories that are easier to remember than some arbitrary grouping. More about that later.